So here's the cell that I've drawn and I'll be working with today. On the outside here in blue pen, I have drawn the cell wall. And just inside of that, in this green layer here, I have drawn the plasma membrane, which is my first talking point. So this plasma membrane here acts as a sort of barrier for the cell. So it keeps everything that the cell wants on the inside, and everything that the cell doesn't need to function on the outside. It keeps the cell from just being free-floating DNA and just loads and loads of cytoplasm on top of each other. It allows the necessary parts of the cell to stay inside a barrier-type circle so that they can all function together and do their jobs. It also filters through things from the outside. So if something comes from the outside that the cell needs to survive, it will let it in. And if the cell has waste from the inside, the plasma membrane will let it out. The two things, according to the OSMI book of chemistry, that can destroy a cell membrane is soap and laundry detergent. They kind of break the cell membrane and turn the cell into free-floating cytoplasm, DNA, mitochondria everywhere, and doesn't allow it to function. This kind of makes sense to me because as we wash our hands with soap and we wash our clothes with laundry detergent, the point of that is to break down the bacteria that's left on your hands from whatever you've been touching that day and whatever's on your clothes from that day, and to clean them and to make them sterile. So this makes sense to me because if we're breaking those membranes of the bacteria and getting rid of them and making them non-functionable as bacteria, we won't be able to get sick from wearing it or touching it or put it on our face or our mouth. So that was the first talking point. The second one is going to be the cytoplasm, which I have colored in pink. It is a free-floating fluid-like structure that goes all around the cell. The cytoplasm holds all of the different parts of the cell in their places within the plasma membrane, and it allows them to float around to complete their jobs. Specifically, for an example, ribosomes have to transport information and connect different amino acids, and the cytoplasm allows them to freely move, be flexible, and do that. Two things that can hurt the cytoplasm are acid and toxins. If they get into the cytoplasm, they can freely float around. They have access to everything within the cell, such as the mitochondria, which releases ATP, it stores our energy, and the endoplasmic reticulum, which transports eukaryotic cells throughout the cytoplasm. It has access to all of those things and can hurt and destroy those as well. The third thing that I want to talk about is the nucleus, which I have colored on my cell in blue here. The nucleus is kind of the brains of the cell. It holds all of the DNA and the instructions for what everyone's supposed to do, where they're supposed to be doing it, and how it's supposed to be done. Without the nucleus, the cell would not be able to function because it holds all of the information needed to do so. The two things that can damage the nucleus is radiation and change of position. If the nucleus is not where it's supposed to be and the DNA is misconstrued, it'll cause genetic malfunction. Nobody will know where they're supposed to go, what they're supposed to do, and all of the cells will not know how to function or do their job correctly. This could end in heart failure, and just as I said, your body will forget how to function altogether as a human being, and you won't be able to do things that are necessary to survive due to lack of DNA of knowing how to do so. The last part of the four functions that I will talk about is the ribosomes, which I have colored the dot-like structures in the orange-reddish color here all over the cytoplasm. Those freely float. They also have a bit of DNA inside of them. Most of it lies within the nucleus, like I said, but there is a little bit that each ribosome has DNA for itself because it's responsible for many things. They are responsible for connecting amino acids, for protein synthesis, and they're responsible for translation as well. According to Dr. Stacy Sampson, one of the things that can damage ribosomes is oxidative stress, which means floating antioxidants in the cytoplasm. If these antioxidants are floating around in the cytoplasm, as well as the ribosomes, as they're transporting information to and from different parts of the cell, they can crash into each other, and the antioxidants can mess up the chemicals and create a chemical imbalance, and the ribosome will not be able to complete its task. Another thing is ribosome dysfunction, which is pretty much just abnormalities within the structure and function of the ribosome. It lacks of DNA, or the DNA is misconstrued, almost kind of like I said within the nucleus. And the ribosome doesn't know how to complete its job, doesn't know where it's supposed to go, and can't transport what it needs to. These are the 4 functions that are most important in the cell: the plasma membrane in green, the cytoplasm in pink, the nucleus in blue, and the ribosomes in the orange-reddish color.